I have been working since last 15 years with NDDB Dairy Services. Prior to that, I was with NDDB for a year. I was placed in NDDB. And the work that we have done here has been primarily been in terms of information of farmer producer for the farmer producer organizations, so which are member owned and member controlled institutions. So a lot of thought has gone into it, and the concept part from NDDB. I have been a part of this when the real execution had started on field. So this has also been a very enriching journey for all of us. Would love to take you all through this entire process. And I was told that during the session, it's a 1 hour session where I can speak for 45 minutes and then we can have a question and answer round at the end. But I would suggest, I think after every slide, if we can just interact, because it should not be a monologue. I'm talking for 40 minutes. Aisa nahi hona chahiye ki it gets boring for you. So we can do that.
Sure.
After every 5-10 minutes, can we do that? If in case there are any questions, we can take them as they come. Okay, just to start, I mean, just to at the outset, as I said, that we are in the profession of forming farmer producer organizations. I don't know whether you have heard that quote, that once in your life, or few times in your life, you need a doctor or a lawyer or a policeman. Actually, you pray that you never have to meet them. Okay, but every day, 3 times a day, you need a farmer, because he's producing food for you, for us. So it's important that if we are getting an opportunity to work for them, to make their lives easier, I think that is the biggest blessing that God has given us. So we should keep working in that direction. So in that direction, NDDB has been working, and NDDB Dairy Services has started the work. I'll just take you through my presentation. I'll just share the slides and we'll get started. Okay. Just let me know if the slides are visible. Is it visible?
Yeah, it is visible.
Oh. So the topic that sorry, sir.
No, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So the topic that I'm going to talk about is the milk producer company experience, because I have been associated with this since last 15 years. My role has changed from time to time, like every 3-4 years I've done different work, but I have done in this particular domain only. So earlier it has been a bit of conceptual. Then, as I said, we actually got into execution. So a lot of practical experiences, field experiences. So we'll try and take you through that entire journey, and how these milk producer companies have actually empowered the dairy farmers, how it's transforming their livelihoods, how it's making a difference in the lives of women, that we'll just get to know. Starting with the theme, or the flow of the presentation we'll be following this golden circle. I'm not sure if you have heard about it. If do you hear Simon Sinek? He's a profound speaker.
Yeah, TED speaker, TED Talk speaker.
TED Talk speaker. So he has written a book named Start with Why. So that was quite an impressive book. So I would just, the flow of my presentation is also in that context. We start with because why, how, and what is what we'll talk about. But why is something very inherent, and this is the thing that actually drives you. And the how part comes into the intermediate part, where the execution happens, and what part is what you show to the world, or how the world perceives you. So what we'll do is we'll go backwards. We'll start from what NDDB Dairy Services has done, or what this entire framework of milk producer company is, the impact that it has created, or what it comes across to the world. And then we slowly touch the how and the why part simultaneously. Okay. So let's move forward. So this is the footprint of the producer companies, milk producer companies that have been created by NDDB Dairy Services. If you can see, there are 23 such milk producer companies that have been facilitated by NDDB Dairy Services. Mariappan sir has been very much been part of the core team. So the entire conceptual part, which has gone into creating a foundation for these institutions, he has been a part of it and he has contributed immensely towards this. So these producer companies have a presence in 10 states and almost covering 160 districts of the country. Then we have the number of, in terms of members, if we see, almost 11 lakh producers are, dairy farmers are the members of these institutions. And out of these, almost 74% are women. So close to 8.5 lakh are women. So this has also been a core focus, that since dairying is something that is primarily practiced by women, it was important that we involve them in the process, and through dairying, we actually get them inducted into the mainstream. So through these producer companies have given us an opportunity to actually do that. With a presence in almost 32,000 villages, they are collecting close to 50 lakh liters per day currently. And they have all together, they have touched a turnover of almost 10,000 crores. This is the last year's figure, with a share capital of almost 242 crores. And in terms of payment, if we see, the first producer company that was formed was in 2012. Since then, these companies together have transferred almost 50,000 crore rupees in the bank accounts of these dairy farmers. And this 50,000 crores, and this payment is being done every 10 days. Sorry, sir. Sorry, sir, I'm not able to
Please
hear
continue.
you.
Continue. Yeah.
Okay. So this is the what part of it, as I said, or the impact that has been created by these milk producer companies. Coming to the next slide. Just to give you a brief background about the NDDB Dairy Services, which has been a promoting organization for all these producer organizations, producer companies. It's a wholly owned subsidiary of National Dairy Development Board, a not-for-profit company which was registered in October 2009. And it has been given the mandate of acting as a delivery arm for NDDB for all the field operations related to, as I said, the formation of these producer organizations, strengthening them. Now, these producer organizations will come to the conceptual part later, how they embody the cooperative principles only. So they are quite similar to cooperatives, and they have some additional benefits as well. So in addition to formation of producer companies, NDS is also into productivity enhancement services. So keeping farmers at the center, as we see, whatever services the farmer needs, they need to have an institution which can actually provide them all these services, which can give them a remunerative, competitive rate, which can actually bring a change in the lives of the farmers. So that is what we are planning to, or intending to do through our efforts. Coming to the major verticals, the two major areas where NDDB Dairy Services working is the formation of producer organizations, as we saw. So 23 till date, and these organizations are professionally managed. So we may be having a workforce of almost 5,000 employees together, if we see in these organizations. And it's an endeavor, a constant endeavor, that 85% of the total sales realization of this organization should go back to the farmers. So through milk payments, through loyalty incentives, through dividend, whichever way possible, through a reduction in the cost of production, we are trying to achieve this objective to the best of our abilities. In addition, as I said, services are also equally important. So the kind of animals that the farmers are owning, it's important that they're good quality animals. This entire dairying profession should be profitable for them. So good breed of animals, whatever services in terms of nutrition of animals that are required, or new research that can be done, so that we can actually replicate it at a mass scale, bringing down the cost for the farmer, increasing their income from dairying. So all these things are also being done through this animal productivity vertical of NDDB Dairy Services. Just to this is just will not take much time on this. So I've just tried to show you whichever the 23 organizations that we are having. And when I say that we have a presence in 10 states, these are primarily Rajasthan, Andhra Pradesh, Punjab, and Haryana. Then we have Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, and we have Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh, and West Bengal. So this is how we have spread. So these organizations have been formed with funding from multiple agencies, as it was told by Archana in my introduction, that we were blessed to have funding from World Bank. There was a national dairy plan that was implemented, so we could create some big institutions under that plan. Then we partnered with Tata Trusts to form some women led organizations. So Tata Trust was the first organization with whom we collaborated to create greenfield projects and women-led organizations with 100% bank payment mode. So this was something that was started way back in 2015, even before demonetization. So there were two conscious decisions that were taken like 10 years before from now. Now we do actually see the difference, but the work had actually started 10 years before. That women should be at the forefront, women should be the shareholders, payments should go directly into the bank accounts of the women, and that it should also be a woman board completely. So whatever work we can do in order to train them, to mentor them, so that they are actually able to lead the organizations, that effort should start happening. So that started way back in 2015. And then we also partnered with NRLM. So they declared NDDB Dairy Services as a national support organization. And with them, we have formed almost 10 such producer, all women milk producer companies with NRLM also. Any questions till date? So this is the what part of it that I have covered almost. So next we'll be going to the how part of it. So if you have any questions on like pertaining to whatever we have spoken till now, we can just take the questions. Or if you suggest, then I'll just continue.
We can continue, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so we'll just start with the how part then. Coming to the business model of NDS facilitated MPCs, if you see, I'll just take you through how it actually happens in the field. We have milk producers, dairy farmers at the village level, and we try and set up a milk pooling point there, where they identify a collection center. We identify a village level functionary who is supposed to collect milk from the dairy farmers and bring it to and collect it at the milk pooling point. From there, what we have done is we have set up automated milk collection systems, milk testing machines there. We call it as the DPMCU, or the data processing milk collection unit, wherein the milk samples are tested, and each and every milk sample is tested in front of the farmer, and there's a display out there where the farmer gets to know what is the fat percentage in their milk, what is the SNF percentage in the milk, what is the amount that they are actually getting. So it's visible to them. And immediately when they decide that they're okay, the rate and all also, though it's a dynamic thing, but then that things get synchronized every time. So farmers are updated about it, and as soon as they actually supply the milk, once the milk is accepted by the producer company, they do get an SMS, or there is an app that we have actually now designed for the farmers. So it immediately gets synced with the server, and that data is visible to them. So we also kind of have their history maintained with us. So a lot of investment has actually gone into information and communication technology. We have tried to put in ERPs so that we have all these things together, all checks and balances in place, and so that we can all these investments, so that we can actually save some money and actually maximize returns for the farmers instead. From that milk pooling, this is the data part of it. Then from the milk pooling point, the milk that has come that goes, we arrange inward logistics for them. Vehicles are arranged for them. So a vehicle reaches that village and it collects the milk and takes it to a chilling location, wherein the milk is chilled. And then there also there is an automation thing happening. So milk is collected at the village level, then it actually reaches a chilling location. This is the place where actually company receives the milk. So here also all the data is captured at an automated system, and this data also gets immediately synchronized with the server. So all the quality assurance and all the tests, because milk is a food product, we all know. So it's important that all the required tests and all done. So the employees are trained for that, and accordingly they are carried out at the chilling locations. Or the data pertaining to that is also fed, because that is something that the forward linkages needs all those information. Outward logistic is something that milk from those chilling locations is just passed on to the forward linkage or the buyer to whom we actually sell the milk. So this is the entire value chain. And in this value chain, what NTDB Dairy Services has done is they have set up the SOPs for at each and every step, so that every producer organization that is operating, like in every village, these 32,000 villages that we are talking about, so we have kind of similar SOPs. And a lot of there are a lot of checks and balances in place. Audit mechanism is in place so that we don't deviate from it. And so a lot of investment goes into it to ensure that these things keep happening. So NDDB Dairy Services being the central organization, it's important that it brings in efficiency in this entire value chain and keeps supporting the producer companies in strengthening their systems on a day-to-day basis. So milk from the chilling location through tankers goes to the forward linkage of the buyer, which primarily is Mother Dairy in our case. And then in turn from there, it goes to the retail customer. And the payment that happens, it happens at a frequency of every 10 days. And so all this data that is captured through ICT, so that actually helps you. It's fed into the ERP, and it actually helps you in creating that entire value chain. So for the payment happens through the producer company and directly into the bank accounts of the farmers every 10 days. So this is the entire model. So a lot of activities happening. So whatever services that we are talking about, one part is the collection of this milk. Then there are the services, as I said, for breed improvement or the feed that is provided to the animals or any health related interventions that the company undertakes for them. So these are the services that are actually provided at the doorstep of the farmer. So if there are any payments to be made for that, then that is something that gets adjusted with the milk bills on a cycle to cycle basis. Now coming to some important design principles that we have taken care of while creating these institutions, while ensuring that with the intent that we had for creating these institutions, that remains intact. So governance is something which is a very important aspect of these organizations. And as I said, most of the MPOs out of 23, 16 are women owned. So there is a drastic change that we see after 10 years. As I said, we started way back in 2015, 16 when we started. Shrija, of course, was the first women milk producer organization. We started with it in 2014. After that, we have started greenfield projects. So we do see a lot of change in the participation and involvement of women. So that is a huge difference that we see. So one difference is at the level of the very outer thing, like money coming into their accounts, their credit worthiness increasing, their savings improving, they're investing more in the education of their children, health. But there are some changes that are happening at the village level also. The way the power structures are changing at the village level, the way we are talking about more equality for women. After they're getting that platform, they're coming up and expressing their gratitude or whatever feedback they have for the company in the meetings. So we have village level meetings in place, and we also discuss it threadbare and at the board level. So we try and have a mix of all kinds of women, small dairy farmers, medium dairy farmers, large dairy farmers on a board, so that uh, we can have a good discussion on the problems that they have facing. So that was through. So we have a class-based representation, so that the we are able to maintain that mix. That and then we also have expert directors on the board who act as a bridge, or in creating that understanding between the farmer, the women members on the board, and the professional management. So because there is mm, uh, something that we are actually dreaming about, and what we are actually translating into reality. So it's important that that dialogue keeps happening and we continue to trust each other. So policy-based governance is also one aspect. As I said, that we have set SOPs for all the processes yes. Yeah. We have set SOPs for all the processes in field. In the similar manner, we also want to have set SOPs for the board related interactions. So policy governance helps us create that code of ethics for the board, for the entire board, for the chief executive, the way the relations should be between the board members and the chief executive, so that there is a balance between both of them. Then we also have a rotational retirement system in place, so that the leadership continues. Like we don't have people coming in and going in all together. So there are one-fourth directors who are actually retiring every year, and new people coming in. So we have a mix of new directors, old directors, and so that the learning keeps happening. These new people, they take some time to learn, and the older members contribute more. So we keep having that churning. In terms of women-led development, as we have already talked about it, women, mm, most of the 70% of the tasks related to dairying are done by women, especially in the like we are in South, also in Andhra. We have seen in Andhra, we have seen that the entire value chain is actually taken care of by the women, which is actually very inspiring. Um,
We have added insurance to the service.
then in terms of what this has actually done, these producer organizations have brought in an economic empowerment for them. As we said, money in their account has given them a lot of say in the decision making. They have a lot of say in the asset creation. They have a lot of say with respect to the education of their children. So these things these actually make you very happy. They have an access to the market and the resources. They can take a call on what they want to have, what they don't want to exercise. They want to have, if they have any feedback about the services, they can say about it in the monthly meetings that we conduct at the village level. Then a lot of investment is going in the capacity building, a lot of training programs. If you see in terms of training programs, almost 4 million participants, or 40 to 50 lakh participants have been actually covered through a lot of training programs. Dairy farmer, these include the dairy farmers, the employees, or all the stakeholders who are actually a part of this. This compounding happening through a shared knowledge, it has helped in creating the momentum, which we actually see now. So through various platforms, that quite a few international platforms also, we have seen our chairpersons going to IDF conferences, and then talking about our culture, talking about how these organizations have brought a difference in their lives. So this has given a lot of social empowerment to them, created a platform for them. So these are some subtle changes that we do see. And now we don't face much of a problem in identifying people for the board. Earlier it was, I would admit that it was a tussle for us because women were not ready to come out of their households, neither did their family members support much. But yeah, through 2-3 years in the recent past, we have actually been able to create that faith in the system. Another part, as we said, the adoption of the digital technology. It's very encouraging to see women, all the members using that app. So this app is having a different name. So as in Sakhi, we have the name of this app is Sakhi Saheli. So there is this app. You have all the information related to the particular dairy farmer. It actually lets you know the amount of milk that you have supplied, the rate at which you have supplied, the number of days you have supplied, whatever services you have availed, whatever deductions that have happened, what is the share capital contribution from your side. So all this information is available, and we try to have it in the vernacular language so that say they do have an access. So slowly and slowly the pickup, I mean, people are adopting this. So this has been a challenge. But till date, we have almost covered almost 30-35% of our members who have actually started using this app. So once they have this app, they are able to see. So you need not give them any SMS or the slips that were earlier given to them. So this adoption is happening, and through this app, we can also think about reaching out to the farmers in a more personalized way in future. So probably that would also happen, provided this picks up more. So we have already talked about this, the app, it's about the acknowledgement receipt going to the members directly, and how the women are actually going out to the banks and taking their payments on their own, deciding how to spend it. So this is quite encouraging to see. In terms of data management analysis, I've already mentioned, we have SAP in place. We are going to have it in all the producer companies now. We are going live every quarter with 2-3 producer organizations. Close to 50 million transactions taking place every month. So if we see, we have 11 lakh dairy farmers who are supplying milk to us twice a day. So these many transactions happening twice a day, day in, day out, 365 days of the year is a huge data. And quite a lot of insights also, provided we use it well. So all the efforts are being made to bring these things together and have a system where the decision making is more towards data driven side, not perception based. And we do have some actionable insights through the actual field. So now we do have a member database in place already. So as I said, these 11 lakh farmers, we already have the entire database for them. Now we are actually going out to the animals also. So these 11 lakh farmers may be having some 50 lakh animals with them. So now we are actually going and capturing their details also. So technology is helping us in this regard, and probably we would like to make use of the data that we create. Next, coming to climate and sustainable dairying, this is also an important area. Now, as we know, sustainable dairying means that the resources that we have now, it's important that we use it well, we use it judiciously so that our future generations don't face a problem. So making use of renewable energy, circular economy, these are concepts that are being promoted by the government today, and this is something that is here to stay, and this is actually going to help and bring down the costs in the long term. So all the efforts in this direction are also being taken by us. So biogas, we all know ki nowadays, so I think there's a premium market for it as well, but we're also having a lot of other uses with biogas. Earlier, it was just used as a dung or as a manure. Now we are creating, cooking the fuel out of it. We are also making CNG, bio CNG out of it. So a lot of diversified sources of income coming uh, through biogas also to the farmers. So there's one plant in Varanasi that where we are actually collecting 100 metric tons of cow dung from the farmers every day on a daily basis, and we are creating electrical and thermal energy out of it. And a dairy plant is actually run on that thermal and electrical energy. 50% of its requirement is being met through these biogas, through that is this dung which is being collected on a daily basis. So it's a commendable thing that is happening in this direction. Then it's important that we have good feed and fodder feed and fodder available for the farmers. It's important that we provide them quality feed and we give them good food. So trying to bring more and more area within that cultivation. And the quality of feed which is actually provided to the farmers, that should be of the best quality. So they should get value for money. So efforts being made through a coordinated approach to ensure that, and ensuring maximum use of renewable energy, solar energy, uh, so that we save some amount on electricity costs as well. So this is transforming rural livelihoods. This is something which I've already said in my previous slides, just reiterating. Consumer rupee, 85% of the consumer rupee going back to the producers is something we are aspiring for. So amongst the 11 lakh dairy farmers who are associated with us, 65% are also smallholders. So when I say smallholders, it means that who have up to three animals. So since ours is a unique dairy ecosystem, though India is the largest milk producing country in the world, what is unique is the smallholder dairy system here. So it's important that we create a kind of ecosystem which helps that holder to remain connected with us and continue to practice dairying. So because that is a daily income which is actually going into their household every 10 days, which helps them take care of a lot of expenses. And out of the 190 directors that we have, 144 are women, and 17 out of these 23 chairpersons are women.
Okay.
No. Now coming to the services part, though I've already mentioned, but I'll just through one slide, I'll just reiterate what these producer organizations are doing are providing a direct market linkage through the milk pooling points that are getting created at the village level, and through the village level functionaries or the employees, we're ensuring that they get good quality feed. Then there are fertility camps that are being organized at the village level. The artificial insemination services for the breed improvement of the animals. Animals is the only asset that the farmers have, so it's important to take care of them. And it's important that this this dairying is a profitable business for them. So it's important that these services keep reaching the farmers on a steady pace.
Rachna, while you collect your breath,
Yes,
I
sir.
have some questions to
Yes,
ask.
sir. Great, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
I think one thing I want to perhaps know, it's a very impressive first thing to say.
Yes,
And it's very glad to see a student of ours doing such good work, and then also on such scale and in different places. One question is related to your career professional advancement.
Yes,
You
sir.
know, many people move from a grassroots work practice to become consultants, advisors, etc., etc. And then you have started with outside that, and then you have gone down to the grassroots now
Yes,
to running an enterprise.
Yes, sir.
So, how difficult it is to make this direction transition? Because the other one is easy, because we have seen many people move that way. but you have moved it the reverse way.
The
That is one
reverse.
question.
Sir, I think it was a very natural progression for me, if you ask me,
Okay.
because when you started the career, when we started a career, we actually did not. It was very superficial, everything.
Right.
And when like we have a lot of dreams when we come out of the college, and then yes, we are there to change the world. Lot of lot of energy and enthusiasm. But when we actually get down into the field, we understand that the real challenge lies in the execution part.
No,
Because
but you have reached that stage, because in many times what happens is people leave their dreams behind somewhere and then move after somewhere.
yes.
But I think we are glad to see
Mhm.
people like you who have really made it to the grassroots and then making some change there.
So
So
what?
very appreciative.
Thank you, sir. So what I understood is it's important to keep that faith.
Ah,
Because what happens is many people tend to give up like early in the it's very difficult to make that real change at the field level, but once it starts happening, no, so there you get a lot of confidence. It's important that you get some positive experiences when you are actually starting with that. So like as I said, I was blessed enough to get that opportunity to start with a very small project. It was a greenfield project. We started with a very small project, some 100 villages, but that gave a lot of insight.
yeah,
And then we could make those connections ki
right.
where we actually need to work, or where the maximum leverage is.
Okay.
So that is why probably it comes across, it's like it has been a reverse journey, but as I said, it's a very natural progression.
Very good. And I think another few questions I have
Yes,
related
sir.
to the work that is going on.
Yes, sir.
One is, I think it is really commendable that we have this model in which, transparency and integrity of the transactions is protected.
Yes, sir.
And for that, lot of use of the digital
Yes.
technology and other things are used.
Yes, sir.
And then the other one, I think I would like you to change some words in your slides.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, one part of it is related to the governance. When you are explaining,
Yes, sir.
you are saying it is class-based.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Hmm.
I think, but class-based is a very loaded
Achha,
word in the world.
sorry.
People
Okay.
understand it very differently.
So the class entirely, that categorization of class is entirely based on business. The
Yes,
business that
that
they are
is what
doing.
I think.
Yes.
Maybe
Yes. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can use it, that is kind of a equitable patronage based,
Okay.
proportionate patronage based,
Right. Right.
instead
Right.
of calling it class based.
Okay.
So
Right.
when you are explaining also small, medium, large farmers,
Right. Right.
so instead of saying them small, medium, large farmers,
Mm-hmm.
they are the small, medium, large volume suppliers.
Yeah.
Because there may be a big farmer, but he may be supplying very little.
In
and
terms
then
of milk, we are
it's
talking.
possible.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
you
It's
can
possible.
call them as volume suppliers or
Mm-hmm.
suppliers in whatever way that you like.
Right.
And I
Right.
think the rotational continuation of the board is really blessing,
Mm-hmm.
because in the world that we have seen, many things have failed because such was not incorporated into it, and then it was not working. And then I think the other one that which I have seen, when you are talking about this, again, data-driven decision making you have used.
Yes, sir. Yes,
I
sir.
prefer you use maybe informed or information-driven this thing. I understand there is a lot of data behind, but the data doesn't really produce the decision. It is actually the information which they are taking an informed decision making,
So
which will
processing
raise
that
the
data into
yes,
information,
yes,
you mean to
and
say.
we
Okay.
that raises to the decision making understanding to a different level.
Right.
So that is one thing.
Right.
Then you mentioned this circular economy, and I am very pleasantly surprised
Yes,
that the
sir.
biogas thing also got integrated.
Yes.
And then I'm very glad to know that some of the dairy energy requirements
Yes, sir.
are met from that.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Because we were always saying dairy industry is energy guzzling, water guzzling, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But now I think both solar power and the biogas, both of them are integrated into this. So
Right.
making those kinds of criticisms not so valid, and then maybe rightly so. It is a move in the very right direction. We wanted to do similar kind of a thing for rice mills. So far, it has not happened.
Okay.
Because no, the rice mills also produce lot of husk, etc. Husk-based furnace, power generation, all that is possible. But it's not happening. They are drawing power and then they're running. So it is very, very good to see this kind of a thing. So
Yes, sir.
only other question which I have, then I
Yeah.
will leave you
Mm.
free. I think the cycle, because no, your billing cycle is 10 days.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And I'm curious to know, when do
Hmm.
you make your profitability assessment of? Is it linked to the operational cycle or quarterly, monthly, or
So
time?
we do it on a monthly basis, sir.
Monthly
And
basis.
every board meeting also we present it to the board. So like
Okay.
every couple of months we have the meeting, we do present it every
But do
meeting.
you make separate accounts of cow milk and buffalo milk and things like that,
No,
or
sir.
no?
Milk? No, 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 no,
No.
no.
And your patronage rebate is based on what contribution? You convert them into fat and SNF units or liters of milk, or how do you do that?
No, it's based on liters only. The
Based on
incentive you mean to
liters.
say that we pay to the farmers, that's liter based only. But yeah, our calculation for the sake of our financial, everything is kg fat and kg SNF based. So
Right.
so the
But
service, yeah, realization part is dependent on that.
do you make a distinction between cow milk suppliers and buffalo milk suppliers in terms of liters?
No, we
And
don't
when
pay.
it comes to the patronage. Anyway, you are paying
No.
the price on fat and SNF,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
when
yeah.
you are sharing patronage,
No, we are
do
not making any
you are
difference.
not making
No,
distinction.
no.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yeah, I am
Thank
done
you,
with my
sir.
question.
No,
Yeah.
sir. Thank you, sir.
Right.
Mm.
So, Mr. Pranay, you have raised your hand. So, Pranay, do you have a question at this moment?
He's on mute,
Pranay,
I think.
Pranay Kumar,
Yeah.
you're on mute. Do you want to ask something at the moment? Okay, I guess no.
Mm.
Ma'am, you can continue, ma'am.
Okay, I think I'm almost done. Just a couple of slides remaining now. This I'll just sail through earlier. So now this ends my how part as well. As I said, so what and how is almost done, and why, as I have been like while discussing also, I have been saying, but this entire thing is keeping the farmers at the center. So with the sole objective of maximizing returns for them, improving their profitabilities, ensuring that they have good systems, and ensuring that we actually respect them for the work that they do. So whatever can be done in that regard, that is what is being tried to be done through this model. So producer company has actually helped us do that. And agriculture, as we said, India, though dairy or contributes almost 5% to the nation's economy, which is huge, which is a huge thing. I think single largest commodity doing it. So it's important that it continues and it actually grows, because, as we said, it's a source of daily income for the farmer. So it's predominantly dairy, and the agriculture sector is small, comprising of small and medium scale farmers on a predominant basis. So in linking them to an assured round the year market is important. So producer company has come in to actually do that. So cooperatives has been a very successful model, a very conceptually it is a very strong, robust idea. We all know Operation Flood, what Dr. Kurian, what magic, what wonders he has done through Operation Flood, and the kind of institutions that he has given to the country. I think his contribution can never be matched with any other person's contribution. So so cooperatives have actually given a platform to our dairy farmers, and through this producer company is nothing but a slight, we would say, in terms of modern times, some changes that that were required to be made, so that these institutions are actually made more autonomous, and so that they are more flexible, they are more business oriented. So producer company was a step in that direction to ensure that, so that these organizations actually continue to maximize the returns to the farmers on a continuous basis. So this was a learned experience from other countries as well, countries like New Zealand, which we also know is the largest dairy exporter. There, the cooperatives are actually considered at par with the private enterprise. So that was one idea that actually clicked. Ki probably we can also try that here in India. So that is how this entire journey started. So at a conceptual level, this started so that we could actually continue to create that difference in the lives of the farmers, the dairy farmers. So this is just a journey that happened. Producer organizations were known to provide a powerful countervailing force. So we have already have a lot of stories. We know where a cooperative society exists, the prices there that the farmers get are much higher than the prices in a village where there is no cooperative society. So that has been a norm. So it was important that we reach maximum possible villages through such producer-owned institutions. So that was the basic idea of creating producer company, that we have the similar model as cooperatives, but we go into the areas where they have a limited presence of cooperatives so that we reach out to maximum possible farmers. Of late, government has also recognized.
Rachna,
Yes, sir.
if it is okay, kindly just can explain a bit about the competitive advantage, either way in terms of comparing with the cooperative, which you are already doing, but also with the private entities, if it is possible. Yeah.
In terms of private, wait, can I go to the next slide, sir? I think some part I'll be covering.
Please.
Yeah, yeah. So as we said that corporate producer company is nothing but a hybrid of the cooperative and the private company, as pointed out by Marappan sir also. So it has the heart of the cooperative, but the brain or the flexibility of a private company. It also runs on the mutual assistance principles, which are similar to the cooperative principles. I'm sure you may be having a course on that also. So it's kind of the principles are same. 8 minutes. And in terms of membership, if we see here, we have individual farmers and we also have the institutions that can be a part of the producer company. In terms of similarity between the company and the cooperative, we see in terms of membership, it's the same. In terms of governance, it's the same. Voting right pattern is also the same. The patronage basis distribution of incentives is also the same. Education and training that is being done in the cooperatives in the similar manner it's being done in the producer companies as well. In terms of private differentiation, if you see, there are some good things that are happening in the private companies in terms of audit, if you see, in terms of the way they are actually handling their finances. So these are some characteristics that have been actually adopted from the company law. So we have a very rigorous audit culture in all these producer companies. We have an internal audit on a 6-monthly basis, the statutory audit. We also have concurrent audit in many of the organizations. So audit is something that actually helps us in ensuring that the right systems and processes are in place and that they continue irrespective of people coming and going. So we don't have a people driven culture or a people dependent culture, and and rather we set up a system driven culture. So that is something that's a learning from the private company that has actually been incorporated in this producer company. And in terms of some more things, some few more additions that have happened in this producer company law, which has helped us strengthen the cooperative movement, is we have been able to create it in India on a pan-India basis, being because it was a central act. It was made a part of the Companies Act. So as a result of that, it became quite enabling in nature. So the state level restrictions that earlier restricted the cooperatives to that kind of a restrictive thing is not happening in this particular model. In terms of area of operation, also, as we said, it has a pan-India presence. So shareholders, we have explicit norms, provisions. So in the bylaws, we try and explicitly mention that the members being active is very important, because their participation in the business drives the entire thing. So it's important that they continue to remain active and they contribute share capital so that they have a skin in the game. So it's actually made comparable with a investor oriented firm also. So the way a private investor is more interested in maximizing his or her profits, so here farmers are the shareholders. So every effort is actually made to maximize return of the shareholders, which in turn are farmers. So these institutions actually help you create a bigger impact. That is how it is. So your whatever you are doing, you're running it just like a private entity, but you're actually creating a bigger impact and a more meaningful impact. So digitalization and transparency, as we said, this is something that all the private organizations are doing, and our deliberate efforts are being taken up here also to take care of it. Audit, we have already discussed. Expert directors on board, or the independent directors that we have in the private organizations. We have it because we want to have diverse perspectives on the board, which can actually help you be more future ready, more forward looking. So this is something that is already being practiced in producer companies as well, so that we actually have those systems in place. In terms of design principles, there have been some core design principles. Through practice of these principles, we have tried to differentiate the organizations, these producer companies, from other set of institutions. So it's important that we do business only with the members, that is our dairy farmers, our shareholders. It's important that they remain active. So all efforts are being made to ensure that this entire app thing, and they're getting an entire access to their transactional data, is because so that they know how much their participation in the business is. And every year we try and reach out to them to understand why they have not, if they have not participated, why so systems are in place to ensure that we have a share capital contribution, so that we have a skin in the game. We try to build in that. Then class based representation, as he said, as Rajasa said, that we would actually call it as an equitable patronage based representation. So that is dependent on the volume supplies. So that ensures that you have a good mix on the board. You have all kinds of people on the board, so that you have a balanced view. Having a grievance redressal or a communication mechanism at the village level, so that people can voice out their opinions, give their feedback, and the changes can be made down the ladder. Then we have professionally managed, as I said, roughly 5,000 employees working in this entire setup. So it's a huge pool of people who are actually associated with it. It's important that a lot of investment should go in their training, in their capacity building, skill building, so that we grow, because this is something that is here, that should grow. So a lot of investment should go in their training, capacity building, so that they ensure that these organizations continue to function in the manner they are supposed to. So that these professionals also ensure that we have this efficient value chain in place, and which actually helps you in maximizing the returns for the shareholders as such. And at the end, we have the technology leverage, as already said, which is actually helping you to reach the last mile and make the best of it, so that we have informed decision making culture in place. So this is how it actually summarizes all the things that have been done on a conceptual level. Execution, as we said, is always is the devil or the challenge. And we need people who actually believe in this concept, young students like you, who can actually come forward and take it as a challenge to convert this vision into a reality. So the more such kind of institutions we have across the country, I think it results in a stronger backbone for the country. So it's important that we be a part of it. So it's not, I understand we have a lot of dreams and aspirations. All the young people, we want to go and have a good job, good package. But at the end, this impact also matters a lot. So I think thank you so much. Through these organizations, we have got an opportunity to do it, and would love to interact with you all also. In case you have any questions, we can take.
Thank you, Rachana ji. So, is there anyone who wants to ask a question? Because I have 1, 2 questions here, but I'll just wait for others to ask. If anyone has anything to comment on or ask Rachana ji, now is your time. Okay, since no one has
All right.
asked, so I have
Yes, sir.
1, 2 quick questions. So one is
Yes, sir.
I'm just curious because though I have worked in the rural development sector, but I have not specifically worked with any dairy federation or dairy MPO. So you mentioned this information based decision making, or you called it data driven. Sir has called it
Yes, sir.
information driven
Yes,
decision
sir.
making. Could you give a small example, if possible, like how the information that comes on a daily or say on a weekly basis, how does it help
Hmm.
you streamline your operations better? So if you could just explain with a quick example, that would be wonderful.
Okay, so if I tell you about the app, the kind of app that we are talking about, no, right now we have created these kind of apps at every level. If you remember that entire business model that we were talking about, right? So we have a village, we have a collection point, okay. Then we have a village level functionary there who is actually collecting the milk for us. Then that milk is going to the chilling location. So these transactions happen on a day in day out basis, sir. You know, so if we don't invest in technology and it just keeps happening, we mostly get to know a lot of problems that are happening on a post-mortem basis. When there is some problem, or like after the end of the month, when we are supposed to pay, then we get to know that there is a problem with some particular village functionary, and it derails your operations many a times. Now, through this technology that we are talking about, we have systems in place where real-time updates are actually going to the farmer, real-time updates are going to these village level functionaries, real-time updates are actually going to the employees as well. Okay, so one day over, like we have all the data in place, everything is on the server, each person gets a customized report. So the village level functionary gets to know whether he has made any gain or loss through the milk that he has sent to the producer company. Producer company immediately communicates. The employee gets to know how much, like suppose he's in charge of 20 villages. So, and some 1,000 members associated in those villages. So immediately by the end of the day, he gets to know how many pourers have actually, out of those 1,000, how many have actually supplied milk to the company, so that you can go and talk to them why you are not supplying. If there is some problem with the services, we immediately get to know. So what is happening is you're not doing it on a post-mortem basis. If you get to identify a problem on a particular day, you immediately act on it the next day. So this entire investment in technology helps you grow on an everyday basis, evolve on a daily basis. So this creates a lot of difference. So that is the reason that these organizations, though they are young, 4, 5 years, but they have been able to reach those levels. Does that answer the question to some
Yeah,
extent, sir?
that's
Yeah.
thank you so
Yeah.
much. That's excellent.
One more point to add, it is
Yes,
not
sir.
only in the operations flow related support the information technology is giving,
Hmm.
it is also helping the entire organization in terms of informing the member how much is the participation.
Hmm.
Say, for example, how many days I have supplied the milk, for how
Right.
much volume I have supplied the milk. Am
Hmm.
I eligible for the incentive or not? Am I
Hmm.
eligible to participate in the AGM or not? So
Right.
if you see it in a very broader sense, there is a 3 way you can classify this information technology which will help the organization in decision making. One is the milk traceability, which is he has already explained.
Hmm.
Next is the money traceability, who has given how much of a volume of business or in terms of worth of business, and
Hmm.
how much of share capital contribution a person has given. Is
Hmm.
it matching to the volume or not, or is it the excess capital which has to be returned? Then that is the third one is the member traceability in terms of his participation in the business as well as participation in the decision-making process. Will he be eligible to contest for the election for the board of directors position or not? So all these three level of traceability decisions can be taken and can be informed time to time to the members also. This is the
Right.
additional point. Yeah.
Right, sir. Right, sir. Very right.
Uh, I know we are running past 4
Yeah,
o'clock.
shoot
Uh,
fast.
will you, are you okay with a few more questions or?
No problem, sir. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
No problem at
yeah,
all.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, Sakhi is also a producer company or a producer organization.
This is the
And if
first
we-
greenfield project, sir, because
okay.
prior to that, we were mainly, we did have some project on field and we were converting these institutions into producer organizations. But Sakhi was the first greenfield project. Like we started with just 100 villages when we started.
Okay.
And with the positive input that we got over a period of time, this 100 has now become 3,000 actually. So this has actually grown organically. Mm.
So, if you look at let us see producer organizations in general. If we look at
Mm.
farmer producer organization, so we can call this also a kind of a farmer producer organization
Yeah, it's a
only.
farmer producer organization.
Producer
Yeah.
organization. So,
Same thing.
if you
Hmm.
so if you see the 10,000 FPO scheme, the central scheme, that's 10,000 FPO
Hmm.
scheme, plus you have
Hmm.
many FPOs, FPCs created prior to the 10,000 FPO scheme also, and a lot of reports, including the state of the FPO report 2024, even that says that very few FPOs are actually able to achieve success. Again, how do you define success is something debatable, but many are not. So, considering the kind of experience that you have working with these producer organizations, what do you feel? Why are many these producer organizations failing? Or is it the right word to use, failing? I don't know. Or they have not been
Yeah.
able to really
Not able
go
to.
ahead. Yeah.
No, out of my experience, what I could understand is it's very important that we create a complete ecosystem there, because as we said, we don't have big farmers, or like most of the people who are associated with these FPOs are small farmers, and most of these FPOs are also agricultural based FPOs. There is one distinct difference between this milk producer organizations and FPOs is the milk is a 365-day product. So whatever, and a 365-day product you cannot have unless you cannot run it viably unless you have a proper system in place. So milk demands that kind of discipline. So you have to set up those kind of processes which will actually help you sustain on a long-term basis. So in effect, that product itself demands that from you. What is probably happening in other organizations, agricultural commodities being seasonal in nature, probably they're not able to create that forward linkage arrangement or that ecosystem which can actually sustainably, because a lot of thought process has to go into it. It's not, and what I've seen is with a lot of changes in the manpower also happening, because we have seen we go to a lot of reviews, NRLM reviews also, where NRLM has actually funded such producer organizations. We've seen that manpower has not been a constant there. Like people come and go, and this entire thing just collapses, and somebody new comes. That person, it takes time to learn, and this everything goes for a toss. So there's nobody actually anchoring these organizations. You need, when that's what we say the role of NDDB Dairy Services has been, to be when it's a promoter and when it is actually taking the responsibility of taking these organizations together, it is actually creating that ecosystem which is helping them to thrive in like immaterial of the environment they are into. So I think these two, three things, the presence of a promoting organization, a good forward linkage arrangement, a lot of thought going into that ecosystem being in place, so that you ensure that round the year you are able to uh, give returns to the farmer. And so these things do make a difference. Continuity of manpower, professionals being there.
One more point I would like to add again.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Say, for example, whenever such things are happening around, there is a difference between creating institutions and completing a project.
Hmm.
The others are more towards completing a project in a timeline. That's all.
Hmm.
They don't create institutions. That may also be one of the reasons that many
Right.
of the FPOs are not living up to the requirements or not sustaining and continuing the service to the farmer for which they have been created.
Right. Right, so very right. That's true.
So,
Project, when you're actually implementing a project, it's the mindset is different. Yes. Hmm.
if anyone else is there anyone else who wants to ask something at the moment? Yeah, I guess we'll just close here, but I'll just ask you to say two things. One is we have youngsters with us, so someone who wants to who's entering the sector or the
Hmm.
this farm, food, and agribusiness domain post a
Hmm.
PG for the first time. So any quick motivating points to youngsters, because you were also a youngster in 2009 and you have achieved so much
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
Any any
No,
quick points to our youngsters?
yes, yes, I would like to add, sir. So this sector is very important, as we know, and it's growing. And I think this also is the most promising sector that we see in the future, like in the years to come, because agri business, we do have a lot of private people coming in, but we also have these, as I said, these FPOs in this sector, and there can be a lot of good things that can actually be done at the grassroots level through these organizations. What is important is it's important to have that grassroots experience. That is what I feel. So like it's important that whoever comes out of the college now, first 10-15 years at least, there should be a lot of investment going in to your own learning. So because it really doesn't matter, first 10-15 years all of you are going to be same. Matlab, in terms of the positions that you would be taking, but the learning that you actually gain in this period will define your next 10-15 years of the career. So it's important that you relentlessly learn during this period and learn as much as you can at the grassroots level. Go directly, do things on your own. I mean, those machines and all, or whatever technology you are actually trying to make the farmers adopt, you yourself do it with your own hands. See what are the challenges that are coming up, because mass scale replication is what is going to make all the difference. So this is what we see. So this sector, this can grow, and we can actually take this entire rural economy together with us, like when we all grow. So lot of things, lot of good things that can be done. So you should
Okay.
be positive and keep working hard. Try and learn as much as possible.
Yeah, thank you. So okay, then Archana, can we close?
Hmm.
No, Archana.